Today we're going to do a quick take on the Senate hearings with the PGA Tour representatives. Jimmy Dunne and Mr. Price, the COO, presented themselves for interrogation that couldn't have been very pleasant, under oath, I might add. And lying to Congress in the United States can be, for certain people, a very serious problem and a serious crime. Today's a quick reaction to, I think we have maybe 5 clips or 6 clips that are pretty representative of the, let's call it a show, and we'll make our points as we go. Okay, here we have right off the top the host of the hearing, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut. Been in the Senate about 12 years, I believe. Another lawyer, and a very wealthy man, we might add, from a real estate empire that his wife is the daughter of. How convenient. Story for another day, though. But as a Connecticut guy and a New York City kind of guy, interesting. A lot of New Yorkers in this story. But here we have Senator Blumenthal explaining why his committee, which is Homeland Security here in the United States, is investigating a a joint venture between 2 professional golf entities. Okay, let's watch Senator Blumenthal explain to the world why we're having this hearing.
Sports are central to our culture and society. They have huge implications for our way of life, our local economies and communities, close to home, and our image abroad. Athletes like the PGA Tour, golf players, are role models. They are ambassadors of our values, and the institutions that concern us today are vital to our national interests. To have them taken over by a repressive foreign regime certainly is a matter of our national security.
Well, it's clear to me, and it's clear to Darkstar, who is here in absentia again. We'll get his comments tomorrow. We'll go a little more in depth. That the PGA Tour players, unbeknownst to the fans like us, are role models across the world for American culture, although many of them are not from America, which is, of course, wonderful. But they represent American culture, and because of that, this potential joint venture is a vital national security concern for the United States government. Let's just say it was a stretch. We'll leave it at that. Okay, and always a fan favorite, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, explaining just why his view on the Senate hearing is a little bit different, shall we say.
Nevertheless, I see no constitutional power that suggests Congress should involve itself in golf. I have no doubt that some will argue that the tax code or somewhere in the ever-expansive Commerce Clause is the power to regulate private agreements. I disagree. We have no business asking the PGA about their negotiations or what they might do or what they might do. It's not the business of government.
And there you have it. How exactly would the United States Senate, as part of the legislative branch of government here, do anything to stop a merger? I keep saying merger. See, it gets into your head, these press people. A joint venture, how would the Senate of the United States stop such a thing if it wanted to? Well, that's unclear. It's very unclear. And without getting into a lengthy dissertation here about U.S. government and civics, it's the executive branch that is in charge of law enforcement. That would be the Department of Justice in this case. And it's U.S. attorneys and its investigative and policing element, which is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They would handle this. Nonetheless, the Congress has waded in, and Senator Paul doesn't quite see the logic of that. Good for him. So let's go back to Senator Paul for another really wonderful piece of obvious but insightful, pointed observation. So we love data points here on the Thinking Man Show, and Senator Paul clearly should be a fan. And here's another good one.
In December 2021, I proposed canceling $650 million sale of 280 advanced air-to-air missiles and 596 missile launchers to Saudi Arabia. But there was no congressional hearing. We're here today talking about golf, but we didn't have one congressional hearing over sending hundreds of millions of dollars of advanced weapons to Saudi Arabia. There was no expression of outrage. Instead, 67 senators voted against my proposal and voted to continue selling arms to Saudi Arabia.
So why is it that the Senate, at least this committee, seems very concerned about golf and not at all concerned, and the Saudis being involved in that, and not at all worried about selling them advanced weapons all the time? Well, they're a great U.S. ally in that sense, politically and militarily, in that part of the world. It's a very sensitive part of the world. Good for you, Senator Paul, pointing to the facts and logic. That works for us. Okay, here's my favorite piece so far from the hearings involving Jimmy Dunne, who is a smart guy, being basically asked by Senator Blumenthal to resist taking money from the Saudis because that's what Tiger Woods did, because he's a patriot. And wouldn't you agree the American people would back you up on this? It's wave the flag. It's American patriotism. It's national security at stake here, Mr. Dunne. Wouldn't you agree to resist this? Let's see how Mr. Dunne, a smart guy, reacts.
It takes a lot to say no to a bucket full of money. These players who stood by you are heroes. They deserve our thanks. And I am betting, because I never want to bet against America, that America will be on your side, thick or thin. Do you agree, Mr. Dunne?
Senator, it's an excellent line of questioning, and thank you for raising it. We're contractually obligated to try to see if we can come to a deal that makes sense. We'll meet all our obligations. As Senator Johnson and Senator Marshall have pointed out, that when it's in this massive transparency, it will make things difficult. If it ends up we don't get to an agreement, which is possible, LIV Golf will still be there. They'll still have a lot of money, and we'll have to do all the things you're talking about.
So you still have the choice to stand up against sports washing, against the Saudi monarchy, against the hundreds of billions of dollars that the Saudis will throw at you, and stand up for America, because America is going to stand up for you, and maybe you're contractually bound to give it your best efforts to reach an agreement. Yeah. But there is something that stinks about this path that you're on right now.
Okay, that to me is a classic, because Jimmy Dunne is listening to this, and then as a smart person who's done this a million times, thinking, well, we are trying to get a deal done here that I'm actually negotiating, and the one agreement we've signed so far says basically we'll use best efforts, which means something in the law. Best efforts, not commercially reasonable efforts. Best efforts, which means we'll try hard. We'll do everything we can to get this done in a certain way. And now he's being asked to basically reject the deal on global television. Snaps to Jimmy in his own way did get through the answer effectively, but nonetheless, it was extremely funny to watch, at least from a thinking man's point of view. Okay, easily my second favorite moment of the hearings is Mr. Price being asked by Senator Blumenthal, hey, you don't need the money. You guys at the PGA Tour are doing $3 billion in annual revenue. No, they're not. So where Blumenthal picked that number out of, I don't know. But, who knows? Maybe combined a couple of years. But here he is saying to the COO, you guys didn't need the Saudi money. You could go raise money anywhere, pretty much anywhere. Private equity, initial public offering. Come on, go with the program.
If this litigation is ended and your revenue is almost $3 billion a year, Why do you need the Saudis' $1 billion?
We were in a situation of where we faced a real threat of.
But you could go elsewhere for $1 billion, $3 billion, maybe $50 billion, correct?
We could, but if we went down that path, we would end up giving up total control of the PGA Tour. And this particular situation, not only did we preserve the tour's future leadership of professional golf.
You could insist on the same requirements for independence of the tour that you are insisting on, you say, from the Saudis.
We could potentially try that approach, but we would still face the threat of a $700 billion.
And what is Mr. Scott saying? Yeah, maybe we could do that, but if we did, we'd give up control. Now, there was a show out there that mentioned that. This one, control is really what it's all about. This is a toy. This is a very, very important toy for the leadership at Hurley and the guys, and the whole golf aristocracy from England, from the UK over here to the US. So giving up control is not an option. And they found a way to get an investor who would give them a bunch of money, and they could keep control, and they can neutralize the competitor all at the same time. So it's a great deal for the PGA Tour. And why is it such a great deal for the Saudis then and the PIF? Because they don't want control. They want global deal making. And here we have the COO putting a nice bow right on what we've been saying all along, because it's so obvious. And thank you, Mr. Scott. We're going to wrap today with sort of an insightful comment from Jimmy Dunne. And it's illustrative of how we think the PGA Tour Policy Board feels about the whole operation. So what do the guys at the top think about how pro golf works, at least the PGA Tour works? And here, let's roll Jimmy's answer and then see if you can, or see if your perspective is the same as ours, and then we'll come back.
They sued us. We did not decide to sue them. They took our players. Their entire existence is based on taking more of our players. That's just a reality. We're not complaining about it.
Okay. The part that jumped right out of the television set, so to speak, right out of the video monitor was they tried to take our players. And they're going to continue, those guys, those Saudi guys, LIV guys, they're going to continue to try to take our players if we don't do something about it. So that's why we did this deal, or that's why we're trying to do this deal, because they're going to take our players. I thought they were independent contractors. I didn't realize that you guys at the PGA Tour were paying all your players a whole bunch of money to be there. Oh, you're not. They have to earn every nickel through their achievements on the golf course. And in fact, if they don't achieve success on the golf course, they really don't make much money at all, if any. And since LIV's come along, that's changed a little bit, but not a whole lot. It's certainly gotten a whole lot more remunerative to win. But if you're player number 120, you're still, and that's a heck of a good player at 120. If you're player number 500, you know, you're not making any money. But it's good to know now that they're your players. They're not independent contractors at all. They're not entrepreneurs who should be able to negotiate compensation on their own from another tour, perhaps. Oh, yeah, very insightful. It sort of explains in a nutshell, how things are viewed from the top down to the bottom. And I guess once again, we could say Phil Mickelson was right. Okay, we're going to wrap it up for today. There's a lot more to be said about this whole Senate hearing, and we're going to get Darkstar in here tomorrow. We just wanted to get a quick reaction out today while it was fresh, and tomorrow we'll go into deeper analysis, and we'd love to see your comments so that maybe we'll steer towards some of those. Maybe we're overlooking something that we shouldn't be. So let us know here and on Twitter at ThinkingManShow on Twitter, what you'd like us to look at as far as these hearings go. And until tomorrow, B Team is out. We don't charge for our videos. We don't tease you with some of the information and then make you go somewhere else and buy the good stuff. We want to help. So we just give it all to you right here. And if you'd like to maybe give us $1 or $2, that would be awesome. We're on Venmo. It's super easy. Just hit us up there, connect, and whatever you want to do. We love it. We appreciate it.